This story is about a conflict that has been going on for over 20 years, and this is the most devastating impact of that conflict. Hey everyone, I'm going to show you how I mapped out fire damage during the border conflict between Kyrgyzstan-Tajikistan that has affected dozens of villages and hundreds of houses. So my name is Aiganysh. I'm a Bellingcat researcher, and I come from Kyrgyzstan. So for that reason, a lot of my focus is on Central Asia. I do investigations into corruption, but also conflict zones and conspiracies. Yeah, working on investigation became important for me because I guess the environment where I grew up in really affected me. So I live in a small village in Kyrgyzstan, and I can see all the inequality. So in this project, I am basically researching the conflict between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, a small conflict that happened last year in September. And my main aim is to figure out really what happened, because in many cases, it was hard to find objective and verified data. I wanted to combine all of this data, verify the social media posts, find out which villages got affected using satellite imagery, and basically figure out the scale of this conflict and the damage that it has caused. So in this project, I was looking basically at all the villages that were affected by this conflict. And these are the villages where the troops were in, these are the villages where the houses got burned down. So both countries, they reported that the multiple dozens or hundreds of houses were burned down. So I was trying to trace where they were. So satellite imagery definitely was the most useful tool, I'd say, because first of all, it helped me to geolocate the social media posts showing like burned houses, etc. But secondly, the satellite imagery from Google Earth Pro, but also from Planet. Checking out those, I could see which villages got affected, so I could easily just do a scroll and see like where the houses have disappeared between this week of the conflict. Google Earth Pro is a great free tool anybody can access, so most of you'll be familiar with like Google Map, but there is also an application for your desktop called Google Earth Pro. And once you download it, you'll get all the historical imagery that was available on Google. So you can just click on the dates that you need that are available, and you can see the changes. So yeah, Google Earth Pro is super great. I think it's it's probably one of the most used tools by open source investigators. And the Planet, this one is a paid tool by a subscription base. So the great thing about Planet is that you have lots of images. So if Google Earth, for example, for Vatican, it updates like photos maybe each year, maybe a couple times a year. The Planet, it updates photos every other day. So when doing open source investigations, it's great to have multiple sources, just because it makes everything more trustworthy. But in this particular case, we used two tools because Google Earth Pros had a higher quality, and you could see the destruction like more clearly. You could see like how houses used to look like more clearly. But since Google doesn't update its photos more, I would have a photo from May and another photo from December. So if a house has disappeared in that time period, it could be like any reason. But when we look at the Planet's imagery, which is a little bit lower quality, so it's harder to see the destruction, but they're updated like every other day. So in this case, I could see that, yep, the conflict started like on 14th, and on 14th, like the houses were all intact, but a few days later on Planet, I could see that they have all been burnt down, or they have basically the roofs have disappeared. So first of all, I've been reading lots of reports that houses in this village were burned down, houses in this village were affected, and there are like lots of reports with lots of villages. And the thing about the village names is that there are a lot of the same names, so it'd be hard to pinpoint which one it was. Because, for example, in my investigation, I have 2 Dostok villages, which doesn't help, and there are like probably hundreds more in Kyrgyzstan. So one tool that also has helped me really nicely was NASA's firms map. So this is a map that shows heat waves, basically, that are happening on the planet Earth. And they have these heat sensing satellites, and they'll bring you, I mean, if it senses a heat wave, it will like pop up red, okay? So this way, when there is a big fires from this conflict where like multiple houses are being burnt down, there is a high chance that NASA's firms will pick it up. And that's why, yeah, that way I just went to the map, I clicked on the data needed, and then could see that there were these heat spots on like different villages at the border. And from there, I could get the coordinates and then just go to Google Earth Pro or Planet Imagery, and I would put down the coordinates and check the historical images. So again, if I could see that in May there were like dozens of houses at this place, but the updated photos show that all of them are gone, then that's a very interesting point for me. And when looking at these buildings, but also checking out the social media, because we are looking at the social media posts where like residents, but also journalists would go to these places and take photos and videos of the burned down houses. We would sometimes see that it was a school or it was told as a school and we could verify it, or we could see that it's a kindergarten, municipality, and etc. So whenever we would find the type of the building, we would type it as a school or as a border post, but if we couldn't find it, we just kept it as a private property. There were hundreds of houses that got burned down, that were destroyed during the conflict, and the houses were from both sides, from Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. The numbers vary quite substantially. On our map, you could check out which villages got affected, which houses were affected.
This is how you can use our map tool to see the incidence of potential building damage. In order to see incidents for buildings where change has been observed on satellite imagery but don't have media, click on this button. And then you'll see all the buildings where we've observed change to the building. Next, you can either zoom into any village, or you can click a village from the bottom row. Let's click on Aksai. In order to see the satellite imagery, click Load Satellite Imagery, and it will take a few seconds. You can zoom in and see that all of these building icons correspond to a building. You can click on the View Satellite After button to see the November 1st satellite imagery. Or you can simply click on the map, okay, and it will change automatically. So here you can see that all of the buildings have disappeared on the November 1st satellite imagery. The difference between green and blue buildings is that blue buildings also have video or image linked to it. And the video will be embedded if you have enabled the option. Okay, to enable it, you click on these three dots, click on the embeds, and enable it. And here you can see the building, what footage we have of it.
So the project was done together with GAP. Global Authentication Project is a community of open source researchers, volunteers who are assisting with this kind of big scale investigation, I'd say, because whenever there is an investigation with lots of social media posts, with lots of manual work, we really appreciate some help. And yeah, that's where the GAP comes in to fill in the gap. Yeah, they get trained, they get vetted, and then we start communicating on the research. The impact I hope this investigation will bring is, I'd say that first of all is just awareness of this conflict, not only internationally, but even locally. So I'd really like to have this map where the residents of both Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan could go to and see for themselves that the which houses, like which villages were affected. So Tajik side could see like this objective verified information that Kyrgyz houses were affected and Kyrgyz houses were burned down during the conflict. And the same thing for Kyrgyz people did. It could see, like they could see that like Tajik villages were also affected. And for them to just see like the scale of the event and the damage that it has brought. Second of all, of course, I would like for the victims of the conflict, for the people who lost their homes, just get more attention to them, and hopefully they'll get the help they need. If you want to do this kind of investigations into the conflict, so there are a few considerations to take. So whenever there is a photo or video that pops up, I guess the first thing that you need to do is do a little bit of Googling or reverse image searching, because first of all, there are fakes everywhere, but especially in this case, these border conflicts have been going on for a while. And it's very important to fact check that this is the footage from the most recent conflict and not from the one that happened like a few years ago. So I'd say that's the first consideration. And and then once you verify that the content is original, you can go ahead and try to geolocate it. Since we are publishing a map that shows all the incidents, other researcher can do a deep dive into a conflict that has happened in a particular village. So if you see like thousands of houses affected in this village, maybe you can go and check out either social media posts that show the troops coming in, or you can like geolocate those social media posts, but also chronolocate them and find out like when exactly it happened, and basically do a chronology of events. Yeah, it can be as banal as following on the news, but also being in the Telegram groups on different Telegram channels that post basically any updates, especially updates on the border conflicts, because they will be usually the first to post like a photo or a video from a witness.